What is up YouTube, and welcome back to another CZN or Chaos Zero Nightmare video. And today we're going to be talking about what I plan to personally farm for memory fragments because I just did hit level 40. Now, I did mention in my previous videos, if you've been following my channel, you mostly don't want to farm memory fragments at all until you hit level 40 because this is where the orange memory fragments unlock. This is the highest rarity of memory fragments, even up until level 10. You're going to see that it will drop orange. Now, I do believe it will drop at a higher drop rate at 10, which is why, it still drops the same rarity for now. But before then, until you hit level 40, you can't unlock difficulty 5, which is why it's going to be, in my opinion, important to wait until level 5, which is going to start dropping the best gear, because this is the gear that you can actually start using for the entirety of the late game. But before we go any further, I want to take a quick moment to talk about today's sponsor, LD Shop. If you guys are at any point in this video interested, make sure you guys check out my link down below. LD Shop is the best way to make in-game purchases, and it's honestly really easy to use, and it saves you a ton of money on stuff you were already planning to buy. It's 100% legit and safe. I use it all the time myself, and it works perfectly. If you guys want to know how it actually works, it's very simple. You just have to search the game at the top here, which I'll show you on my screen. And then by doing this, you will see that your game will pop up. And then when you click on the game, you will see the options to have these discount codes on a ton of different stuff in the game. So why spend extra money in game when you can use LD Shop to get these discounts? So for example, if I want to buy this new Captain Support Kit 2, which will give you some summons and crystals, you just click it, you press top up, then you just put in the info that they require. And the best part about LD Shop is they give you this graphic that shows you what's happening with your delivery or your purchase. And when it finishes, it'll just tell you when it's done, and you'll be able to log in and get your rewards right away. And to my surprise, it took literally like 5 minutes, not even. So if you actually log into game once you get the notification that it is finished, you're gonna see if I go into my mail here, that my rewards are here. So an extremely fast and a lot cheaper way to purchase things in game. So why not just use it, right? You're just getting a discount on all the in-app purchases. It just makes it a lot easier. And they even give you a lot of coupons on the regular, and you'll also see that they support not only Chaos Zero Nightmare, which we're showcasing today, but a lot of other popular games, so you can use it for just any purchases that you want to do. But yeah, once again, huge shout out to LD Shop for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you guys check it out with my link down below. Now back to the video though, guys. So yeah, you basically want to farm starting at level 40. This is where you're going to spend a lot of your time and energy, and it is very expensive. One run is 60 energy, and you don't get a lot of energy in this game, which I'll talk about in a separate video in the future because I think it's a big problem right now. But essentially there's 6 different areas that you can farm. Each of them will drop 2 different sets. And what I plan to farm is mostly going to be specific for my team. There's a lot of good memory fragments that you can get. For example, if your character spams a lot of 1-cost cards, such as Renoa, such as Mei Lin, this could be a very good set to go for. However, I will say anything that relies on crit rate or crit damage, it's going to be not as consistent early game because it's really hard to get 100% crit rate unless you get some really unique epiphanies on some of your cards, which doesn't really exist on a lot of characters right now. So I think the crit damage and crit rate ones are very hard to use because a lot of the times when you use this, you'll be looking for main stat crit rate to use on your characters so you can actually meet the 100% crit rate threshold. So I think those, not really worth going for. I think the ones you're going to want to go for, and what I plan to go for the early game, are just going to be flat stat increases or just damage increases. So there's one here, the HP set. This is really good to go for. Extremely powerful 2 set because you can put it on any character, and it just gives you a lot more tanky stats. And even if you're a damage dealer, you do want damage amplifying sets. However, it's still really good because it boosts your team HP. And you guys probably know by now, in the harder stages of Chaos, some of the bosses can like half health you in 1 turn. So pretty important to get some HP up. It's going to be very good. The other one that I really like is the defense set. You can run them together on a lot of supports. This is pretty much the same thing. This is going to be really good on defense scalers like Calipe and Magna and stuff like that. So it just ends up being a really good set to go for. And if you're farming these first 2 dungeons for those 2 sets, the HP and defense set, you're still getting the crit damage and crit chance set, which might not be good now, but something like this can be good on something like a Haru or even like a Keiron later down the line once you start shifting over to a crit set. So you don't want to like throw those away, and you can actually start farming them for the future. Now the other 4 dungeons, these will have more class or element specific gear. So you're going to see that the first one has one for green, the second one will have one for purple or void, the next one will have one for instinct or yellow, and there's going to be another one for passion. So we actually don't have one, it looks like, for the blue element. I forget what it's called, right? Which is kind of weird in a way, but that is how it is. So yeah, everything besides the blue one, maybe I'm missing something, is here. So, you know, if you do use like a void damage dealer, for example, if you're using like Rin, you can end up using something like this, but it really depends on what you want to go for. And for me, because I'm using Hugo as my main DPS, I'm going to be going for this primarily. It's kind of weird because some of the sets you might think are just good automatically because it works with your element, but you really have to read it. So for Hugo, this is only going to be very strong if I'm using attack cards before I use like my Tressa to activate his passive to do like those dual attacks. So it is a weird playstyle. I don't really know if I can get to 3 stacks with this before I start dumping my attacks. So you have to keep that in mind. I don't know if this is like the best set for him, even though it's a order set, because yeah, like I just mentioned, I don't know if I can get to those 3 stacks and then get all the value from the set. And it is a 4 set, so I'm giving up another set for this essentially. So you have to kind of think about this stuff, you know. The reason why I'm farming it though is because it also drops the Cursed Corpse set. If you're using anything with Agony like Tressa, this can be very good. So for me personally, this set with the order set is very good for my team because I use Hugo and Tressa. So this will make it so that my Tressa is going to just be stacking or just putting Agony on like the characters, on the monsters I'm fighting. And then while she's putting the Agony on, I'm just benefiting from this set by doing extra damage because pretty much all of her skills, her damage abilities, will apply Agony, which is very good. So you want to keep stuff like that in mind. Like this Void one, it could be good on just like any Void character that exhausts. Stuff like Renoa doesn't really want to exhaust her bullets. And what I found is if you use this set, sometimes you actually want to exhaust 1 Dirge bullet at the start of your turn before you do your burst rotation. This makes it so that you do extra damage. So this can open up a lot of playstyles, right? Usually with the playstyle with like Renoa, for example, I actually use Renoa a lot, and I'm kind of thinking about farming that set for her. You're just stacking these bullets, right? And you don't really play them a lot of the times, except for when you want to burst something. But with this set, you might want to exhaust like 1 before you know, dump like 6 or 7 bullets in your hand that you have, or before you use something like your Last Ditch Assault, because you get that 15% damage multiplier. So there's like a lot of things you have to actually think about. Of course, you don't have to exhaust the bullet. If you have like a neutral card, you can exhaust that instead if you start with one. I think my Hugo actually has one, so if you have something like Maneuvering Fire, which is going to be at the start of your turn, or I guess the battle, you can use this instead. But it leads for a lot of interesting combinations, which makes it really, really interesting to see how people will build their characters. But I will say this one also has that 2-set attack piece here, and this is going to be another 2-set that you can run. So I think for the early game, if you're not sure what to go, going 2-set HP, 2-set defense, and then 2-set attack, because you can equip 6 pieces, will just be the safest set for every single character. I don't think any character would not like this, except for maybe like the tank team that uses defense as their main source of damage. Then you might not want this attack percent, but in general, I think this will be like the most safest one to go for. Now, that's not to say the last 2 ones aren't good. I just feel like they're not the best for my team. I think this one will be very good on Kalipe because you have more than 4 cards usually when you're using your burst, so it's probably good for her. I've seen a lot of people say that Seth Scarab is very strong as well for any hybrids that do damage and heal, although you have to keep in mind this only works for basic cards. So I've seen people use this on Tressa because with like one of the Epiphanies, you actually heal as well when you use your daggers, so might be good on her. And of course you have that Passion set with Maylin it's mostly going to be used for, which also has a crit damage set. So this is another one where it's a 2-set you can maybe run, but like I said, I think like the crit scaling ones are just not that good to go for. So I just wanted to talk about what my plans are for farming. You can see my Hugo already is on some sort of, you know, combination. I have that 4-set Bullet of Order, which is giving my order more damage, but I will also be switching this out for the Agony damage because, you know, Tressa is going to use her daggers first, and then my Hugo will follow up, and he'll do even more damage with his follow-up. So yeah, basically you want to make sure you are following this element stuff when you are building your characters. If you want to utilize that element set, it's kind of weird that they don't have justice. I don't really know why. Maybe it's because we don't really have any justice DPS, but we do have Haru. But I guess Haru wants that one that makes your crit chance on 2 cost skills higher, I guess. But yeah, that's my Hugo. You're gonna see something like my Rin, who's another character I sometimes use. I actually have her at T2, but I don't use her that much because in the higher stages, usually the strategy is to, which I'll talk about in a separate video, in my Chaos video. I usually farm elites on the first map to get strong, but she kind of struggles with it until you get good epiphanies unlocked. But regardless, for her, because I don't really know exactly what I want to run on her yet, I'm using this attack defense HP spread, which is going to be very good on, like I said, every single character. And then my Mika, which I use everywhere, is on HP defense. I probably will have to upgrade her gear because I use this character in like almost every single team because she's so OP. I've been playing for an hour. Thank you, game. It's not going to ruin my life. Thank you. But stuff like this, you want to really think about when you're building your team compositions. Just know that HP percent and defense percent is always good. So if you're looking for a good baseline, just go for the HP percent and defense percent. That's what I recommend. Obviously, it might not be the best decision, and it might change. But for the early and mid game, just getting HP and defense is really powerful in making your team tankier. And also, you're getting these other sets that, like I mentioned, the crit rate and crit damage sets, which will be a lot better later on once we start gearing our characters more. So yeah, just wanted to talk about what I'm farming right now in terms of memory fragments. A lot of people have been asking, what gear should you farm? Really depends on your characters and also the epiphanies and the builds and decks that you have, which makes this game absolutely amazing because there's so many different possibilities. But let me know in the comments down below what team you're running and what gear you're actually going to farm for them, depending on the decks that you have. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.